Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Art Block. My name is Derek, and I will be your host once again. I want to thank you all for tuning into an all-new episode. This week, I'm going to talk to you about the business model of streaming and why it makes really no sense whatsoever. Okay, so Netflix, of course, changed everything within the industry for better or for worse. I'm going to tell you today why it's really for the worse overall. If you remember back in the day when Netflix started doing the original content initially, House of Cards, that was their first major show. They paid $100 million for that show. I think that's just for the first season. And they outbid HBO for it. And of course, that was a big hit. I was a big fan of that show back then. And in 2024, they had a budget of $17 billion to spend on content. So they've obviously progressed quite a bit where they are spending more and more on their own original content. They have roughly 300 million subscribers. And I always was puzzled at how it could possibly sustain itself. How Netflix could really even stay afloat, let alone turn a profit when they are spending so much money on new content. Like, how could you possibly afford any of this, you know? And there are certain people who get paid a lot from Netflix. They make enormous sums of money. Of course, we're talking about the CEO, Ted Sarandos, making an enormous amount of money. Of course, there's people like Dave Chappelle, who was paid initially $60 million for his 3 stand-up specials he gave the streamer back when he came out of retirement and did those Netflix specials there. Of course, Adam Sandler, he was paid $275 million for just 4 movies. That's just one of the deals that I was able to find in my research. So there's a few people who are making so much money, and yet there are so many others who are making next to nothing when they are creating things for Netflix that are massively successful. I remember when that SAG-AFTRA strike was going on a few years ago, or a couple years ago now. People were talking about how they were on some of the biggest shows on Netflix, and they were getting paid nothing, and they were not. Netflix was not sharing their profits with the people that actually puts them there, that actually made the shows that were so popular. And I came across a very interesting Vulture article about this very thing, about how that streaming model is so unsustainable. And I had an interview with Sean Ryan, who, if you remember, he created the FX series The Shield, which is a terrific show, and it is, you could call it a classic at this point. It was a great show, and now he's created The Night Agent for Netflix, which is currently the 5th most watched English language series on the platform. It's doing extremely well. He was saying he is getting paid less for that new show than he did for The Shield. Now, The Shield, of course, was a hit, and it was critically acclaimed, but his new Netflix show is getting massively higher numbers than The Shield did. And yet he's getting paid significantly less. This is not a anomaly at Netflix. This is kind of the norm. How a few people can be making a lot of money, but generally, if you put something on Netflix, you can't really expect a really high financial return. I've heard online from many independent filmmakers that they get an offer to have their movie that they made on Netflix, and Netflix wants to pay them no money. It's almost like the typical thing about a struggling artist. Somebody wants to get some art from you or hire you for something, but they don't want to pay you. They want to give you exposure. And I guess Netflix views having a movie on their platform as just wonderful exposure. And of course, more people are watching Netflix than any other streamer, really. Except for maybe Tubi is very popular, like YouTube. But, of course, that could possibly lead you to getting jobs because somebody sees your movie on Netflix and getting your name out there. But generally, you can't count on that in any sort of way. This is a disastrous place for the industry to be in. And in that article I mentioned, so many people within the industry are saying the same thing. They're quoted anonymously, one saying that streamers are following the Amazon business model of we don't actually have to make money, just growth for the shareholder. One saying it is the world's biggest Ponzi scheme, and yet another saying it was a grim place for the industry. It's the worst time to be creating anything as bad as it's ever been, essentially. And I can't imagine that this is going to last, much longer. If you are constantly, in debt, even when you are one of the biggest media companies on the face of the earth, I don't understand how you can feasibly continue. Even Spotify is a company that constantly operates at a loss. And one of the reasons I was inspired for this video is I just saw an article about how Apple TV Plus is currently losing $1 billion a year. And now they have 45 million subscribers currently, and generally a Apple TV Plus subscription costs about $10, and that evens out to $415 million a month. Sounds like a lot of money, but they are of course spending $4.5 billion on content annually. $4.5 billion. And now that makes sense because they, so many of their shows and their movies have top tier A-list Hollywood talent. Severance is their biggest show. I think probably it's the biggest show in the world. Everybody's talking about it right now. That costs $20 million to make per episode. $20 million an episode for that show. And it is a big hit, but it's also, the company is still hemorrhaging money in the billions. I don't understand how anybody could defend that from a financial perspective. If you were running this company and you went to your accountant and said, hey, yeah, we're losing $1 billion, but we have a hit show and we are working with some of the biggest people in Hollywood, why does that even matter? And I remember when Disney Plus first came out, before they really had much original content at all, they signed up an unfathomable amount of people because of course Disney is beloved by so many, and they were just putting out their older stuff that they've already made money on through at the box office and through DVD sales and it being broadcast on television. So that seemed to be enormously profitable. But when you are spending so much money on the content and you are giving that out to everybody every month, like you are spending the kind of money as a subscriber that would buy you like a DVD, like for one movie per month, but you're getting access to the entire library of everything the studio has ever made, and new things every single month, sometimes even every week. And people complain about how Netflix raises the price so frequently. I don't understand how they're not doing it even more frequently, or the Netflix subscription doesn't cost, exponentially more than what it does currently. What do you think about this when you hear these numbers? What do you think? Do you think this is something that could be a long-term thing? How long do you think streaming can really last at this point? And as a viewer, as a subscriber of these streamers, do you look at this and do you think that this is in any way good for the industry or good for art? You know, if you have a grocery store and you know charge based on individual items, and there's another grocery store that opens and says, hey, for $10 you can go in and fill up your cart. You know, that is, I think, disastrous to the economy within the film industry. And of course, technology always progresses forward. So rarely are people willing to go backwards and go back to what they had before that was less convenient. You know, convenience always wins. In my documentary that I made about film industry during the pandemic and movie theaters, I talked about this pretty heavily, especially in regards to like the video store. And the video store was fun and convenient, but then streaming came along and totally made it obsolete. It doesn't seem that there could be something even more convenient than streaming is currently. You know, and even myself, you know, I subscribe to quite a few streamers, and it is something that is enormously convenient, and you grow really accustomed to it. You just start thinking like, this movie I want to see, it's got to be on some streaming service that I have, and when it's not, you feel like upset. You know, like buying a movie or renting a movie seems almost foreign or kind of out of the question these days. And as a filmmaker, I look at these stories and think of how grim the industry looks today, and I think there has to be something different. And I know that just about everybody in the world uses streaming, and this is just the way it is these days, but there has to be something that we can do to change that. And I, again, in the documentary I made, I talked about the business model of movie theaters, because when I started working at a movie theater back in 2017, I suddenly learned how crazy the business model is there, because the theater gets paid so little, gets to keep so little of the ticket revenue, and it basically thrives only on, or survives only on, the concessions. That is why, at the time I worked there, a bag of popcorn was somewhere between $8 and $10 for something that costs, a quarter, maybe, to produce, So there are so many things right now in the industry where the cost is so inflated and everything seems so unsustainable. Of course, streaming and the movie theater has always had that business model, but as time goes on, the theater industry is pretty desperate, and even companies like AMC adding extra charges to things, and it's just not in a good place. Movie theaters or the industry at large, even a company like Netflix that seems to be doing incredibly well, that seems to be on top of the world, is somehow still hemorrhaging money, and is not treating filmmakers in any kind of acceptable way. And what do you think about that as, a filmmaker, as an artist, as somebody who wants to be in the industry in any capacity? Do you look at this and think there's no way? Do you look at it and think, do you have an idea to make it different, to make it better, other than striking, like the SAG-AFTRA strike? Do artists and writers and actors strike yet again? until we can get more and more advantageous deals? Or is this just something that you accept as the nature of the industry? I want to know, because when I look at this, I feel very, I feel upset. I feel very, it's depressing to look at it, and I just want, I want the industry to be in a much healthier place. This is unsustainable in every way. I've said that over and over again, but it just really seems like something that will collapse sooner rather than later. You know, and we all love movies. We all love TV. We, love the convenience of streaming. But is it worth constraining the artists like this? I've just recently learned about how directors, even the Oscar winners this year, are essentially broke. Sean Baker, director of Nora, who won 4 Oscars that night, saying that he could not make the films he does if he had kids. Like, going 3 years without getting paid, that is disastrous, and that is no way to have an industry where artists can feel encouraged to create better and better films. Brady Corbett of The Brutalist said a very similar thing about struggling financially, not being able to, not even able to make rent sometimes, essentially, and having to do press for free and not being able to take more jobs while doing the press because it's so frequent. Economically, this industry appears to be in a kind of a crisis, and something that has been really kind of underreported until recently. And I just want to know how these streaming companies expect to continue in any way whatsoever when the people that are producing everything for them cannot survive really under these conditions. So that's really all I have to say this week. I want to know, of course, your thoughts in the comments. If you like the art block, if you enjoyed this episode or any other previous episodes, let me know. Of course, hit subscribe and let your friends know about the show as well. There's obviously going to be a new art block episode every single week now. By the time this comes out, I will also have out the review of the new Snow White, which I saw on Thursday, and needless to say, it was not good. But I break it down in that review. Hopefully, there will be more reviews coming soon on this channel. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate every single person who has clicked on any of these videos. Thank you all, and yeah, what a time to be alive.